So before watching this movie, I had no idea who Austin Butler was. I think my girlfriend mentioned he used to date like some famous celebrity, and he was also like a
Some
Nickelodeon
Disney
star.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, Nickelodeon and Disney or whatever it is. But I had no idea who Austin Butler was. So going into the movie, I had really minimal expectations for the performance, and I gotta say he honestly exceeded anything that could have come in with to the theater. So I really enjoyed how he played Elvis, having gone into this movie knowing very little about Elvis the man, but afterwards really being intrigued by the performance and wanting to know a little bit more about how Elvis looked, how Elvis danced, how Elvis sang. I went back and checked out a bunch of the footage of Elvis doing similar key things that we saw Butler do in this movie, and I'm not gonna lie, they were really spot on, to the point where I'm like, is like how much of the dancing on stage is Austin versus Elvis, right? Like really like unique moves, like sometimes to the point of, it looks like he's having a seizure on stage, and I'm like, is this like, it's kind of like good and bad dancing at the same time, and I'm like, I'm really into this, and then I was really interested in looking back at whether Elvis was really that like half good, half bad at dancing, and really that volatile on the stage, and he was, and I thought it was really spot on to the point where it made me grow in appreciation for Butler's performance. So I think overall for me, I really, really, really enjoyed the performance all up. Not just because, again, it's spot on in terms of the replica of how Elvis himself was, but also because he showed range through subtlety in the film. And I thought that's something that we didn't get from some other actors in this film. I'll hold my thoughts on... okay, so we'll get into it. I think for me... Tom Hanks's performance was like so over the top, it was ridiculous. I hadn't seen something like that since maybe Jared Leto in House of Gucci, to the point where it's so embarrassing. The accent is completely off. It's really distracting from the performance. I think Tom plays this Dutch expat who's really kind of like nameless and faceless as a businessman, etc. But he's so physical in the role, so weird with the accent. And the accent is really not a good Dutch accent at all. So I don't even understand the creative choice to go with that for Tom Hanks there. But again, I don't know how much you can say to Tom Hanks at this point, even though he's one of our most beloved stars. I think this one was just a bit of a miss, because where I mentioned Butler, I think showed a lot of range in his subtlety. The exact opposite showed with Tom Hanks, to the point where there were really, really beautiful moments where I thought Tom really shined. Specifically, the one that comes to mind most is when he sues Elvis, and they're having the spat at the bottom of the hotel downstairs in the parking lot, and he basically gives him that final line of, to people like us, we need each other, etc., and then walks into the elevator. In those like key moments where he's playing this conniving character that's like really behind the scenes sneaky, I thought he really shined. But then in the moments where he has to be like fully out there, fully physical, speaking a lot, I thought those are the moments where I was like, this is a little bit jarring. So I think really, really different ends of the spectrum for the two performances, and I really, really loved Austin Butler's performance, but I'll have to say it's a 1 cent for me on whether it's deserving of an Oscar. I think we saw quite a few movies last year where, actors kind of carried an entire film throughout, and I do think Butler carried this film all throughout, really with a lot of help from Tom in this case. But, having seen Will Smith win this for last year, win the Best Actor award in this case, I think you have to carry the movie to a way higher extent for me to feel like you're going to win the Oscar for that one. And I think we might have a few movies later this year that might contend for that. So for me, it's a no for the Oscar. It's a 1 cent there, but an absolutely entertaining performance from him. What about you, Fahad?
Let me just ask this. If not to win, do you think he deserves to be nominated?
I think so. I think he deserves to be nominated purely because I think... Here's the thing. It's hard. I think it's harder for him to really like completely mess this up and not be nominated because of how central the film is to the character. So in a biopic of this size, I think if you hit a solid 7 out of 10 acting, you should deserve a nomination for Best Actor.
Okay.
Not saying though that if you were in any other movie that wasn't a biopic and you gave me that level of a performance, because you would just have quantity wise just a lower amount of scenes in the film, I wouldn't say you would deserve a nomination for best actor. And so I think because of the genre, because of the style, because of the sheer number of scenes he was in, I struggle to even think of any that didn't have him in there. He deserves the nomination, but for me, he doesn't really deserve the award itself.
Vod?
I'm in agreement with Sam in most of the points. I thought he did really, really well in terms of kind of mimicking the mannerisms of Elvis. And I think that's kind of key. I remember us being very amazed with Rami Malek's work in the Queen movie. So I 100% props to him for kind of like really digging into it and giving this story like a little bit of depth. I feel like Elvis is one of those rock stars that, as famous as he is, he's almost lost in the sands of time. A lot of people, if you like stop them on the street, they'll know his songs, they'll know who he is, but they won't really know like where he's from and what he's about. I would say it's a 2 cents for me. Like, he should get a nomination for it, but that's not saying anything else about the movie. I'm sure we'll get into that after. I think if also the fact that I think Chris shared the article where he like lost his voice or something. There's like permanent damage.
His
to
voice
his vocal
changed.
cords.
His accent changed because he was
So, like-
in the Elvis accent for so long.
So
that after
I
the
think
fact,
I think
yeah.
one of you mentioned that as a joke that like, yeah, this will get him nominated. I do think genuinely that is something that like the academy people who like vote for this.
Yeah.
That's something that they really like drill down on. Like, he's so committed to his art. He's willing to sacrifice his body or whatever.
Jared Leto,
also,
right? Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, also, who he was dating was Vanessa Hudgens.
Nice.
That's probably why
okay.
she knew. Yeah, see, everyone knows who Vanessa Hudgens is,
Yeah.
but not Elvis, right?
Mid-00's queen. Yeah.
Elvis. So I was a massive fan of his, and this will kind of give away what I might give the movie as a score. But Admir mentioned this term to me recently, where it's like a really good average movie. This movie, and he makes it a really good average movie. If he doesn't put in like the shift, this movie does it. It's just buns. It's just absolute garbage. Like, the best parts of the movie for me is like when he's on stage and he's like doing the dance and he's singing and you see the crowd going wild. Those are the best parts of the movie. Whereas when you have him like moping around and it's like more like Tom Hanks's character kind of like overshadowing him with the kind of background noise of narration, whatever the heck that was, that really kind of like throws you off. Whereas the performance, those are like his moments. 2 cents for me. I think he should get the nomination. I probably don't want him to win it, but I think he'll probably scoop a nomination just because the Academy is what it is. What did you think, Admir?
Yeah, so I always feel some type of way about biopics.
Yes. You're a biopic hater. Just say it.
I am.
And
I am. I'm a biopic hater when it comes to like throwing prestige at actors that do well in biopics. My rationale for it is because there's such a treasure trove of like content for people to glean from actors to like look at a character and go, okay, I got to play that guy or that person, right? It's a lot different than when it's fictional and you have to make it flesh and blood, right? Like, I feel that's more difficult in a fictional sense. And I always feel like more credit is given to biopic actors because we know these people. And so when we see them act it out, it's like, oh, yeah, you just got to be 70% of the way there. My imagination will fill in the other 30%. And wow, it's an amazing performance. And I felt that way with Rami Malek. And over the years, I've just not been that high on that performance as it's gone by. And so here we are again in the same place. Do I stick to that or do I bend in a way? There's a couple things here that for me, I want to give Austin Butler some credit for that. I think it's different from some of the other biopics I've seen. The first is Elvis is like 70 years old, and I think it works to his credit that many people don't know much about like who he was and stuff. Like, I guess going into watching the Queen movie, Freddie Mercury is a little bit more recent. He's a little bit more part of, I guess, the current generation, given the music he played, the impact he had. And just as an icon of our generation, I think he's more prominent than Elvis is. Elvis is like this hokey character. Like, he's like a copy of a copy of a copy at this point. And the only time you see him is when some dude's doing some shitty imitation of him, right? You rarely see the authentic sort of version of whoever this person was. So I think there's that going for him. The other thing is, Baz Luhrmann had a couple people that were up to play this role. I think Miles Teller was up for it. Harry Styles was up for it. And so was obviously Austin Butler. It works to this film's credit and to Austin that nobody knows who he is. And that allows him to blend into the role, I think, a lot better than if you have like a Harry Styles come in. And while you watch the movie, you're struggling to go, is this Harry Styles? I'm looking at Harry Styles playing Elvis as opposed to Elvis, right?
Also, Harry Styles is also a musician. Harry Styles is also a musician.
Yeah.
Why do you have like Adele playing another musician? Like, no, bro, just play you. Just make a movie of Harry Styles.
If I see Harry Styles in one more movie, dog, I'm actually gonna throw
Bro,
up.
these trailers are mad. These trailers are
The
mad.
thing is, I don't even hate the guy, but they're making me hate him. Like, every movie.
What
has
movie
him
is
in
that?
it.
He actually looked okay in that movie about like reality and shit. Whatever.
Yeah, it was like, it
I
has
mean,
Florence Pugh in it. Yeah. It's pretty
Yeah.
Yeah, with Florence Pugh. Yeah, where the
This is
crawdads sing. That'll be
Yeah.
the movie where I'm not here. So that's a you guys movie that you'll be watching with Florence Pugh and her going mad.
Brev. No, but so I think that's working for him. The fact that like you don't know who he is. I think the difference, again, I'm going to compare him to Rami Malek because he's the one that stands out because these are very similar. The other one that happened in recent times is, what's his name? Is it Joel Ellington? The dude who played Elton John. The kid from the Kingsman movies. I forgot his first name. Is it Joel? No, Joel. Something like that. I didn't watch Rocket Man, but he got like really good feedback for that, but so I'm not going to compare it to him. But sticking on the Rami Malek point, like Rami was coming off of iRobot. You're in a TV show for that long. That was part of like the conversation for a lot of people. I think
Mr.
for such
Robot.
a long time.
I think it's
Mr. Robot. Yeah, iRobot's the Will
Robot.
Smith movie. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Oops. So it's different, right? Like he's able to work the fact that you don't know him, and I think it there's a point in the movie. And the end kind of sells this for me, where I'm watching it and they do the transition from Austin Butler playing Elvis to just a clip of Elvis, and you kind of don't notice it for a minute. You're like,
yeah.
And then you're like, oh shit, like damn, I think that's the actual guy. And I think that speaks to how well he blends into the role. And I think it's more than just the mimicry of it. And again, that reminds me of like Rami never sang in the movie. He lip syncs all the scenes, and that's fine. I think that's what a lot of actors do. This dude sings. This dude dances. He plays the guitar.
Did he?
Yeah.
Was he singing the performances?
I believe so. I believe so. So
Yeah,
he's
I would
doing.
find that very hard to believe because it's a job well done.
He's doing work.
I mean that
Yeah,
Academy
like,
season. That Academy season, bro.
Yeah,
That's just
I
how it
think-
is.
All right, yeah.
This is-
this might be a.
This man straight
it's
up
one of
like
those
actually
baby-
became Elvis for this role.
It seems like it. Like, yeah, I'm gonna hold back and say I don't know if he sang everything, but I know he's not lip syncing. Like I know that for a fact. So whether they were working on his voice after the fact could be like I don't know that, but he I think is a singer or whatever the case is, but he does a lot of like work that you can see he put into the role, and I think those roles are easier to go, okay, like that guy deserves or that person deserves a nomination, right? Because you see the work that they put into it. Like when Christian Bale loses 1,000 pounds for a role, you go, wow, all you got to do now is kind of be like, okay, and we're gonna give you a nomination because already what you did is absolutely wild. So he's in that space of doing the work to show up to that. My final point. Why I think he will be
I have a
nominated.
clarification on what you just meant.
Good. Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
So Baz wrote on Instagram, I feel I haven't been clear enough in conveying that Austin sings all of the young Elvis in the movie. So forgive me.
Okay.
You might find so all of young Elvis, which is a significant portion of the film. That's insane. That's insane.
Yeah, he's probably not hitting the note
Yeah.
at the end. That's kind of OD. Because
that's hard.
For.
Yeah.
Yeah, like while you're and Elvis was also on some next level drugs when he hit those notes at the end of the movie.
It's a different voice. So. Yeah, I think it's very. It was actually interesting. I saw a quick interview with him on Fallon, and he talked about how Elvis's voice changes. I think all our voices change as we get older, and so he had to learn 3 or 4 different Elvis voices up until the final moment. So yeah, expecting him to sing on key for a person's career that spans whatever 30, 40 years, whatever. Like I think that's too
Just
much.
do drugs.
But given the fact, simply, right? So you have that, and then to add to it, and I think this is really important, the way Baz Luhrmann shot this movie is like it's coked out of its mind, right? And so you need an actor who's able to like go in there and like do work in this space. The only other guy who comes to mind who could probably do the job is like a young Leo DiCaprio who has it in him to like go wild in a role, right? Would other actors do a good job? I think so, but I'm not going to take away with the fact that he's in this role and he delivers in a very chaotic movie, man. Like, there's so much shit, we'll talk about it, happening in terms of editing, the way it's shot and all that jazz. And he doesn't get lost. Like, his performance doesn't get lost in the movie. It's actually the anchor, I think, for a lot of what's happening. As we've mentioned, some of the best stuff is when he's on the screen and performing, which I think is also really hard to do. So I think he's definitely going to get nominated. Would I be tight if he won it? I don't know. I'm going to have to wait to see whatever the hell the rest of the year has in terms of nominations. I don't know. Do you guys have any performances that like stick out in terms of like leading male performances that go, ooh, that was like a winner type? Because I don't know. Nothing's coming to mind.
I gotta think
for
of
me.
Not so
we
far
watched
this
this
year,
year.
I don't think. Unless
Like,
maybe
Ooh,
for the
ooh, I would say,
Northman.
that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Northman, with,
Skarsgård, right?
Skarsgård brother from Northman.
But that's
I'm
like
looking
that.
at- I mean-
the movie feels too niche, I think, to win it.
Yeah, that movie. It'll be very hard for that movie. Like Elvis.
Yeah.
He needs to do like a little bit nice to get pushed. Northmen, dudes in the
Yeah.
academy aren't obsessed with Viking culture, whereas I'm sure a bunch of those people like grew up with Elvis, and
Right.
their
Right.
kind of outlook on it will be different. I'm trying to look at what else.
For everything,
I mean,
everywhere,
Batman?
maybe.
Yeah, I was gonna say Waymond, but isn't the lady the
He's
main
a
character? of the
supporting,
movie?
yeah, she's
yeah,
more
yeah.
of a
He's
supporting.
just the guy. So, what
Just the
about
guy.
Robert Patty? I would say like
Nah,
no.
I don't
Wow,
think
yeah,
so.
dudes are OD. Dudes are jungle
That's
shit
a
out here,
decent
man.
shout. We'll see. Like right now, I think he's
What
up
about
there.
Jake
but again,
Gyllenhaal in the ambulance? I mean, I don't know. I heard Sam's movie did really well
yeah.
apparently.
Tom Cruise,
Now I'm
Top
fucking
Gun.
with you.
I don't know.
Tom Cruise, Top Gun.
Oh, I mean,
yeah, no.
yeah.
Right now, if we're talking right now, he probably has a nomination in the bag. But
Yeah.
we also have like some big movies in the books. I think what's that? What is it? Oppenheimer? Is that the film?
Yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah.
I'm
Is that coming
definitely
out?
saying
I
his
think
name.
that's
It is.
next year, isn't it?
Is
No, I
that
thought
next
that was
year?
this
Isn't
year.
It, didn't Sam draft
Nolan
that? Isn't that
movie?
one of Sam's
Wait,
movie?
wait,
Yeah.
Wait.
I'm
Nah,
not
I think it's
sure.
definitely next year.
No, it's definitely not this year. It is next
Yeah,
year.
I know that
2023. Yeah.
Babylon movie is coming out this year, and that has a loaded
Yeah.
cast. So there's like a couple of movies still coming out with like Knives Out 2 will probably
Yeah.
have some competitors from it, but right now
The
he
boy,
has it
Danny.
locked.
Danny C.
Unless
Yeah, yeah.
someone blows us out, unless someone blows it up with a role, he should have. How many is it? 8 roles? How many people get nominated? 8 or 9?
I think 5 or 6.
What about
5 or
Mario?
6?
I think he's-
yeah.
Mario from the
Waluigi,
Mario and Luigi
yo.
movie.
Yeah, Chris
Who was
Pratt's
it?
voice gets nominated.
Chris
Yeah.
Pratt go. I mean, that's probably a better role than he played in Jurassic Park. I'll tell you
Mario
that, bro.
single-handedly carries that universe. I'm just gonna say.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, that's
it's
a
in the
fact,
title.
brothers.
Just as this is. But no, yeah, so I think 2 cents, I as things stand, I think he top of mind. I wouldn't be surprised if like the movie's ended now and he won it, you'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. But we'll see. I think he's definitely lucky for the nomination.